Hey, what's up, everybody? And thank you for listening to Operation Agency Freedom, where we are bringing you top secret advice from the world's most badass digital agency owners. These amazing men and women are sharing their stories of how they have built 6, 7, and 8-figure digital agencies and how you can too. And of course, I am Chris Martinez, CEO of Dude, where we help digital agencies by giving them the people and processes so that they can take on more website projects and scale profitably. I was going to say funnily. I don't know why that word came into my head. Scale profitably. And today I am joined. Today I'm joined by the Nate Wright from Inbox Attack. What's up, man? It's good to have you on the show.
Alan, I'm happy to be here, man. Happy to be here.
And it's kind of interesting how we met, because I cold emailed you, and then you're an email guru, copywriting guru, and then you liked my email, and then we jumped on a call, and we just kind of we're not, as of right now, it doesn't look like we're ever going to work together, but I mean, dude, you're an awesome guy. So then, here we are. Now I have you on the podcast.
No, I'm happy to be here, man. It's been an interesting few months.
That's for sure. So we'll talk all about the agency in a minute, but of course we always start out with our roundtable discussion. And you're probably I think the third guy who does martial arts. And so, that's like a passion of yours. And as most of our listeners know, I started doing jiu-jitsu about 18 months ago. So, I want to hear about your story and how you ended up getting into the world of martial arts. And I know we were just talking about boxing and stuff like that. So how did you get started?
Well, I got started in high school, actually. I was just a scrawny kid and started taking classes at the YMCA and did the basic Taekwondo stuff, breaking boards and doing all that. Then we got a new instructor in, and I would have to say, hands down, one of the best teachers I've ever had. There's some people that are good at doing, some people are good at teaching. There's some people that are amazing at teaching, and he just taught me so much.
Right.
Introduced me to Wing Chun and Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. I remember going to his house to watch UFC 1.
Yep, I remember watching that too.
Yep. And he taught me how to read a room and, you would show up to class in plain clothes to do realistic training, taught me to run away if someone had a gun. Very practical.
Right.
Martial arts.
You didn't tell you to put your finger in the gun. And then you went to the military too, right?
Yeah, I went to the Air Force Academy.
Nice.
I wasn't even 18 yet. I was, and ended up doing boxing there for a semester.
Nice.
Oh man!
How many fights did you get under your belt?
What's that?
Did you actually fight for the team?
Kicked in one, and I'd had it. It was one of the probably top 10 humbling moments of my life. So, yeah, I ended up pursuing other things after that. Dancing is something I did after that, but it definitely there was a lot of fun, interesting things to happen in the wake of that. And dancing is what got me into marketing. So it's very circuitous route.
Well, that's also got to help with the footwork, because I hear, professional, lots of professional athletes will do some sort of dance in the off season to help with the footwork.
Footwork, agility, and just frankly mindfulness. I mean, you're doing jiu-jitsu right now, literally just when you're trying to do a choke or something, for example, sometimes just turning your wrist, literally 2 degrees more, different direction. It's
exactly.
There it is.
Exactly.
And in dance, especially with partner dancing, I started doing swing dancing. And
nice.
I was a late bloomer. I didn't even touched a girl, let alone kissed a girl or danced with a girl by that point. It was after boxing, I went into dancing and I got good at it. Not from a competition perspective, but teaching it and just running parties. I started throwing events and launched a club when I was still in college. It failed miserably, but it made me popular at Phil Cole for the first time in my life.
Yeah. Hey, you had your 15 minutes.
I did. It was, and I got out of it for years, had kids and real life took over.
So
they got back into it again. But
going back to the martial arts, I mean, you're still training now, you said.
yeah, I got out of it
Uh-huh.
and got back into it a couple of years ago, and I moved from. I was living up in Chico for about 5 years in Northern California,
Mm-hmm.
and I moved down the ocean side, north into San Diego
Mm-hmm.
about 3 years ago. And I found a kickboxing club and started training there. And then I found a fighting gym. That's where I'm training now. And it's, I was, man, in the military and boot camp, right out of high school, they had to put me on a weight gain shakes at I was at 135, 6'1". I was
Yeah.
not.
Well, that's me. I was 135, 6 foot when I graduated from high school. So I
Yeah.
completely understand what it's like to be
Yeah,
the skinny guy.
And then I show up to the kickboxing gym sitting at 230. It was awful, man. Like peak point every class for 3 months, man. It was awful.
Right.
But I learned it was good to get back into it.
Yeah. What is it? What would you say is the biggest thing that keeps you going back to the gym now?
Gets me out of my head.
In what way?
In the marketing world and the agency world, especially when you're tackling tough projects and tough campaigns,
mm-hmm.
you don't stop thinking about it.
Right.
Then you throw kids and marriage and family crap and
coronavirus.
Yeah. That little guy. No, you throw all that other stuff in there and it's hard to get out of your head. When I train, I'm either thinking really hard about my next breath because I'm dying, or I'm thinking about how not to get hit, or I'm thinking about how to hit. So it kind of forces everything out of my head for that round.
Yeah.
And I feel strong. I feel badass when I do it.
Yeah, totally.
Of course, yesterday I totally ralphed. It was pretty embarrassing.
No, that's part of the game.
Yeah.
To me, it was like I grew up playing soccer, right? And I didn't do martial arts until, I'm 40 now. So I started jiu-jitsu when I was 30, I think right before I turned 39. And so, the fitness level of soccer is just insane, right? And if you're not throwing up or on the verge of throwing up, then you're not working hard. And so, when I see somebody throw up, instead of me saying gross, I'm like, yeah, dude, that guy's badass, or that gal's badass. They're working really, really hard.
Yeah.
So I admire that tenacity. So awesome.
Are you, do you still play soccer? Or
so I tore my meniscus last October. It was just a little tear. I've done both my Achilles.
A little tear, whatever, man. Any knee injury is.
This is one thing that is kind of unique about me, is I have an unbelievably high pain tolerance. So I've torn both of my Achilles tendons. I've done hamstrings, ankles. This is my first knee.
You're 40 now, dude. That stuff that will change.
I know, but I got one speed. So, but yeah, so I had a little tear in the meniscus, and then I haven't really played a lot since. I played pickup, I don't know, right before coronavirus, actually, because I played competitively my whole life, and then I wanted to start playing again. And this guy who ran an over 40 team, I was like, oh yeah, we played pickup, and so I went and played with him, and I could just tell that there was some instability, a little bit of instability in my knee, which really messed up my back. And so and I had a jiu-jitsu tournament coming up, and I'm like, well, I should probably chill on the soccer because I want to, really focus on. But I basically just need to go to physical therapy and get, probably do some strengthening on the little muscles and stuff.
I'm fortunate enough to have a wife who is also in marketing. She owns a small Facebook ads team, and
Nice.
But before that, she was in Pilates and recovery. So if I'm hurting a little bit, she's like, we just got a coronavirus Pilates machine.
Yeah.
It fills up half our living room. But man, it's really isolating the back and
totally.
Yeah, because I injure really easily now. I'm a fragile little flower.
Who just happens to still, do kickboxing and
that and
some sparring.
Ultimate frisbee would be the other thing. I try to alternate it out. It's haven't been playing a lot in coronavirus status just because it's kind of like jiu-jitsu. It's hard not to get close to somebody.
Right.
You're playing that, but it's a lot of that soccer style, just running back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it's kind of kept me from turning into a total tubby. I'm still keeping the camera purposely above my chest.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, we're all like, keyboard warriors now. So
I know,
this is a
man.
perfect time. So tell us about what it is that you do. And I'm really excited because I think you're probably the first like email marketing expert that we've had on the show.
That's good.
Yeah.
There are a few of us out there. I do email for a living. So that's the short version. I started out like many people in marketing, the jack of all trades. Just over the years, just one by one, I started shaving away stuff that I wasn't great at, or stuff I wasn't good at, or stuff I thought I was good at, but the income wasn't there. So the reality was I wasn't that good at it.
Yeah.
And all that was left about, I would say 5 years ago, I really started zooming in on email. And this year we actually took the company, the inbox attack, umbrella company, and created a couple of different teams to separate out the e-commerce, so the online store world from the B2B world. And it's been hard. I mean, we were able to share the same infrastructure, but it's definitely a totally different model, different delivery model, different everything. So, but it's been paying off. We've been having a really good year so far. Writing a lot of emails, writing and delivering a lot of emails. And it's just a constant challenge. The battle of the inbox, and also just the psychology battle is how to, if you make it through all the technical hurdles of tabbed inboxes and spam filters and server level filtering and all the technical challenges, and it actually gets opened, God forbid, is actually, grabbing attention and standing out as well. So it's been particularly challenging this year, but a good kind of challenge. So when we do knock it out of the park, it feels pretty damn good. So
I've noticed that most copywriters have a process, and oftentimes it's something that they've kind of learned from somebody else and adapted for themselves. Do you have a unique process that you use when you're creating copy?
No. One of the reasons of our logo for Inbox Attack is a dude punching something. It was always meant to be kind of a militant mixed martial arts vibe.
Okay.
Specifically because I'm a firm believer that the multidisciplinary approach is the only way. Truly. I think that it's the only way to stay relevant for long. I'm in business 11 years, which in internet years is like a gazillion years.
It's like 100.
So, I mean, I could go back and kind of like, Luke Skywalker style say, oh, this was my Obi-Wan, this was my Yoda, but only one of them was a writer. Most of them were salespeople. I think that I really was forced to sharpen my craft when I was selling, and email just happened to be the weapon that I had available to me at the time. Was very, very much focused on that.
So what seems to be working right now for you guys? You said it's been a difficult year, and anybody who's worked, in internet marketing or digital marketing, it's been hard this year. There have been some very, very unusual challenges that we've all had to face. So like for you and your clients, what has been generating leads and sales?
So on the B2B side, I would have to say being mindful with restraint. So in the beginning, one of the tactically, if you want to get like actual nuts and bolts, a typical LinkedIn outreach campaign, right? It used to be a cool new thing like 3 or 4 years ago. You send out a personalized connection request. Someone accepts a connection. You send them a bunch of emails. They book an appointment. You make money. That's the LinkedIn, the email funnel. One of the things we've been doing differently, and it's been working pretty well, is we've been removing or softening the call to action in that message. And then we'll wait sometimes 2, even 3 weeks before we follow up via email. And it seems totally irrational, but it increases the conversion rate of the entire process. So
Can you give me an
that's
example of how you would soften the call to action?
okay. Let's see. Can you give me an industry example? I guess that would be helpful.
I mean, we could use myself, so like I sent you out the email, cold
Oh,
email, and we use basically the same exact message for our LinkedIn outreach, actually.
yeah, no, your message was really well crafted because of the
Well,
personalization.
thank you.
It was the personal is that there's you could personalize things, but there's that higher level of personalization that's impossible to ignore. Like even if I didn't want to buy what you were selling, I would have felt guilty if I didn't reply because I know how much work it takes. And that's something that I could talk about that for hours.
Well, what's kind of interesting about that is that I use a certain style or tone of voice that is really reflective of kind of like our company culture. Like,
Mm-hmm.
dude is a fun company. Like, we're not serious. We're not suited up. We're not,
Yeah.
we're very like laid back. I mean, obviously we get our shit done and like we deliver amazing value to our clients, but we are not a like high and tight, very serious type of brand. And so one of the things that we've been really going to or reinventing is making our stuff fun. We actually have a saying that we've been like on the marketing team, like make dude weird again. And because when I started, we were like, I was wearing the wrestling mask and like we were doing all kinds of crazy shit.
Oh, that's right.
And
I
then we got
found that when I was making on.
we got away from that. And then so we're like, man, why did we do that? Like we kind of lost sight of who we were as a company because we grew really fast. We were trying to, I don't know, do corporate stuff or who knows. And so then I would craft these emails and like somebody like yourself, who's like a totally cool person who, if you did web design and development, you would be an amazing client for us.
Mm-hmm.
And that really connects with you. Whereas some people, it repels them. And that's the point, is that we don't want to attract people that aren't going to be a good fit for us. So we have kind of like that unique tone. And every once in a while, I get people who are like annoyed by the tone, and I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. Like, probably wouldn't be a good fit anyways. So that kind of is by design.
Yeah, I mean, it's where did I first hear about that? Derek Sivers.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Sivers and most of his blogs. He's the guy that kind of I would say one of like the pre Ferris, digital marketing influencers out
Okay.
there.
Mm-hmm.
His book, Anything You Want, it was almost like a Bible for me when I first, when my original business was called Small Biz Triage, and I was the mission just to rescue all these small business owners.
Uh-huh.
Like in retrospect, and now that I've been through therapy, I realize it's super codependent and a very codependent business. He talked a lot about confident exclusion, that by, being intentional and blunt about who you don't want to work with, that it'll invite people that you do want to work with more. That opening the doors too wide open is a mistake. And I mean, there are certain cases like selling, like pushing a brand or a product that would not apply. But for us, it's the same way. Like we have, we call it the no-fly zone of the types of companies that we won't work with. Or if a certain interaction happens, we'll issue a refund and run. Like just to distance ourselves from like the toxic relationships that happen in business. I'm sure you've had them before. You've been in business long enough. That's something that concept of confident exclusion is something like you, though. I started getting more corporate, and then my writing became more formal. And it was a couple, like 3 years ago when we kind of came up with this weird inbox attack, moniker. It wasn't even a brand at the time. It was to tap back into those roots, that kind of aggressive, gritty, sweaty, smelly brand. But strong as F, right? So, yeah, no, I could definitely connect with that though. But that's, you'd asked before, like what's working now. Restraint is working. Brevity, of course, has always worked. People still like reading emails though. So I'll still sometimes include like a small novella length email in an email sequence.
Yeah.
Another thing that's been working a lot is removing assumptions. One of the things, and I fell into the same trap, like when COVID hit, because I felt it back in like January, February, because I have a lot of international clients. The clients like spread all over the place. And I started to feel a little bit of the pinch then. And so we started belt tightening. It's not our first rodeo, not my first recession, right? I didn't know how bad it was going to be at the point, but I immediately started adjusting my copy that said, "Hey, things must be hard right now. I feel, things, must be tough to sell or to market." Assumption. And what I learned through that process, looking at the responses and actually getting on the phone with a lot more people, is that in some cases people are becoming busy. In some cases they became less busy. In some cases I might be reaching out to a VP of marketing of a Inc. 5000 company, and they would be a perfect client and it could be a match made in heaven, but they're worried about losing their job.
Yeah.
Because even though their business or their industry, healthcare, another example, everyone assumed that if you're in healthcare, you must be dealing with a lot of emotional upheaval. Also not true. I spent a lot of time, months actually, just reworking a lot of the messaging to be empathetic, but not presumptive. So I don't have a system for writing, but I do have a lot of various checklists and mental models I go through. And that's one of them that I've added to my repertoire now, is that are we assuming anything here? And to challenge our own assumptions, or just address, I'm assuming it might be hard. I know it's hard for me. It'd be better than it must be hard. You want to buy this thing from me.
So, like in let's just use me as an example again.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think is something that I could have done differently in my email to you, or something that you would usually include if you were to redo my email and sending out to my list?
Your first email, I wouldn't redo. I think it was like, now, if you needed to go high volume, if you needed to hit 1,000 date writes, that's not a very efficient way, because the level of it takes customization. Like someone that with some level of business acumen, or at least some level of creativity, needs to look through every single prospect on your list and do that. So if it was to go broad, I think that the only thing I would have done differently is I wouldn't have targeted me for that reason.
Yeah.
Targeting, people that rarely ever believe me when I say this, but I spend more time working on targeting than I do writing.
That's a really, really important point. The list itself, because right now we're also doing some cold calling, and if you're listening and you get a cold call from us, you'll know why. But we're doing some cold calling, and one of the things that we were initially having trouble with was the list, right? Like, we were just realizing that we just had a shitty list. So it doesn't matter how good this script is, so like your targeting has got to be on. So like, what are some of the filters or things that you look at when you're creating?
If you don't mind me using you as the case study, that would be maybe more useful.
Sure.
I would say that I could have been on a target list, but if it was a not tight fit on paper, then I would have actually targeted the message for an outcome that it ended up being anyways. Like, we're becoming each other's referral sources.
Yes, exactly.
So putting you in contact with people, making introductions, because, like, ultimately we're, as far as like time in the business and the type of things that we're doing, we overlap ecosystems. And now, I don't believe in networking for the sake of networking, but I have run some really great campaigns where it's a more asymmetric approach, because I'm one person that can make 5 warm introductions.
Right. Do you find that that's a better approach when you're working with a high ticket item, or something where the list might not be like as easy to penetrate?
You need to do both. You need to do all the things. It's because you don't know. Like, I was talking to, I hired Conversion Sciences recently. They do Brian Massey. Really, really sharp team to help me with our e-commerce side of the business. Our landing pages are just not very good. I like to think they're well written, but they need a lot of work, and he's helping us work through that. And one of the things that he's been really hammering home is this idea of, you know, really digging into the targeting, but also the fact that you need to run a lot of tests.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, for example, I was talking to his like head designer, and I fall under the 20% of people that scroll to the bottom. So for people like me, if you've invested a lot of time thinking about what your below the fold or your footer looks like, your footer menu,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be more likely to get a conversion from me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
never going to click the button next to the hero image ever. I'll never click that button. But I'm just 20%. But 20% is still 20%. There's still business there. So that's why email sequences probe in different ways. That's why omni-channel work is so important. Like, email is just one thing. And I talked to someone just this morning who runs this really, really good B2B call center, where he's got actual dial-in for dollar badasses working there. And I've been very, very impressed with them. I was talking with him about that. And, you know, the same thing I tell people with email, I was like, hey, you need to be willing to pick up the phone. I could run this campaign for you, but if I get out of these 1,000 people, if I get these 20 people kind of interested, they might become very interested if you're willing to call them, you know, and say, hey, you know, I reached out a few times, you know, I'd like to see if we could just skip the inbox and just talk. And there's so many business owners, even with large agencies that I've had as clients, that are not willing to pick up the phone unless it's like a firm booked appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they're going to make it.
Right.
I really don't. But that concept that there's not that, I mean, you're testing out doing cold calling.
Well, I'm the kind of guy who's always like, when everybody goes one way, I want to try and see if I can make it work the other way. You know,
Yeah.
I'm always, when they zig, I zag kind of thing.
No, I'm digging into SMS, so we're digging back into direct mail right now.
Yeah, direct mail. I hear direct mail is doing really, really well.
Yep. So that's the thing, is that, like, I think that in order for somebody like me to stay relevant, I need to make sure that I have an intimate level of understanding with what all the other channels are doing. I don't need to be an expert at it. I need to know how they work together. Like, I understand enough. I would like to think enough about websites that I know that that I need to sync up my email copy with what's on the landing page. Just like with Facebook ads.
Mm-hmm.
If you're sending them to a landing page, there better be some level of mirroring between the messaging in the ad and the color palette in the ad to what's used in the website. And I know that if my emails are being relied on to make some shit happen there, then I need to be mindful of that there is no silver bullet here.
Yeah.
And it's hard though. Like, working on partnering up with Postscript. It's a company, I don't even know where they're headquartered out of. But all they do is, what's that?
I've heard of them.
They do really, really good content marketing. That's why I started following them. Wasn't because I was interested in their service. Like, their newsletters I don't remember signing up for it, but they're really good newsletters. And I'm like, oh, I'll not unsubscribe to your newsletter.
Nice.
And then I started seeing what they're doing, and they're really rocking it in like the e-commerce SMS space, how they're doing it smart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so that, you know, I've invested time in talking to them because I know that SMS is one of those channels that I'm weak in, admittedly very weak in SMS. I've had some wins, I've had some losses, but like, email and SMS just play so well together, and I need to get it. I need to nail it.
Nice. So. Well, hey, guess what? We're like at 30 minutes. Well, I know that you and I, when I started this episode, I knew that we could talk for like hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just about out of time. So, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Just send me an email, Nate@inboxattack.com. I actually do check it.
Yes,
I don't have a virtual assistant. I do check all of them.
And who would be the perfect person to reach out to you today?
Anyone that's got stuck. That's, like trying to do a from scratch like marketing plan to take over the universe. I'm not the guy for that. If you're like getting your ass handed to you right now, or your competition is just tap dancing around you, flaunting it, that's where my team and kind of my approach is going to be most effective.
That's awesome, man. I love that. Is that your actual like value proposition? Or did you just make? Did you
People
just
ask
make
me
that?
all the time, what's your value proposition?
Well, I was gonna say you should use that one because that makes that really like plants something in my brain.
Well, I mean, like our B2B side is
Mm-hmm.
b2bbandits.com. And it was specifically kind of like the Robin Hood Untouchables theme.
Yeah, yeah.
because it's asymmetric, right? You still need to be good at having a big burly guy going there and strong arming someone into giving you the piece of information that you need, but you also need to know how to break in.
Yeah, totally.
This is not I don't think it's ever been a time to do things a normal way, but I can't think of any one survivor story, not one survivor story in the wilderness, in a slum, in business, anywhere, that didn't involve stepping way outside the comfort zone and just doing things in a way that is downright terrifying. If you're not bumping up against like your comfort zone with how you're going your business, you may survive in a couple of years, but not long term.
Yeah, those are some sage words of advice, sir. Thank you very much for being on the show. And to all of our listeners, thank you guys for tuning in today. And make sure that you return next Thursday and every Thursday for the next episode of Operation Agency Freedom. Thanks, guys.